Yeah, we are on. We should be on.
That's great.
All right, Max Kordek from Lisk. We're honored to have you on our show today.
Thanks for having me. So I'm really looking forward to the interview. It's going to be an amazing time here now.
Max, can you give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself and what background you're coming from?
Yeah, sure. So I'm German. I was born in Aachen. I studied electrical engineering in Aachen. But during my studies, I found about blockchain, Bitcoin, Litecoin, NXT, and other cryptocurrencies. And I got deeply involved with that. And in parallel, the university seemed so boring that I never really focused on it. And with a very heavy interest in computer science, financial technologies, and also electrical engineering, of course, I dived deeper and deeper into this topic up to this point where I founded Lisk. And therefore, I decided to stop the university stuff and concentrate full-time on the blockchain industry. And since then, it's been a dream. It's, for me, like the best industry to work in. Now I'm living here in Berlin. I founded the Lisk Foundation together with Oliver Beddoes in Zug, Switzerland, and here in Berlin, the Lightcurve GmbH as a blockchain development studio, which is one of the main clients for the Lisk Foundation.
So Max, we understand that you've done previously, before studying the Lisk, you have participated in some of the project. So can you briefly talk about your previous project you have participated in?
You mean before Lisk?
Yeah, before Lisk.
Yes. So, okay, basically, since I'm 14, I was involved like in so many different online internet projects and smaller startups, but mostly projects. But specifically in the blockchain space, when I discovered it, for me, Bitcoin was like so big, such a huge community. Therefore, I decided to first go into the Litecoin community. There I had like multiple pools running sometimes and some cool websites running, which, well, give the Litecoin users more insight to what is happening on the network. But for me, it really started with NXT. There I founded the Next Foundation. I went to conferences for the currency. I became a moderator on the forum. I was deeply involved with discussions in regards to strategy. I also talked sometimes to the designer back in the day. So I was really inside the Next community, and Next is like completely decentralized, so no one is at the top. Therefore, we decided to create this Next organization thing to give a little bit organization to this chaotic decentralized movement. After that, I went to Crypti because I believed like this complete decentralization is amazing for technology, but for operations and business, it's sometimes too chaotic. So I looked for a startup in the space, and this was Crypti. But at the end, Crypti wasn't so successful, and therefore I decided to start my own startup, Lisk. And since then, Lisk was really heavily influenced by experiences I made within the Next and Crypti community and the time I was spending on these projects and startups.
Can you give us a little bit of background on what kind of project Crypti was and what it was that made you stop?
Okay, yeah, definitely. So Crypti started out with an ICO as well. Back in the day, they collected 750 Bitcoin, and their goal was also to develop a blockchain application platform. So it was in essence similar to Lisk, but by now Lisk is far more like detailed and thought out, but the core idea is pretty similar also to Ethereum, of course, and other projects which enable developers to build blockchain applications. The decision to stop and move on and make my own startup really lies in, like, basically, first of all, funding. There was not enough funding to keep going with the project. And second, the team. I really like many of the past team members, and they were great people, friends of me. But it was decentralized. You know, we had people sitting in America, people in Russia, people in Israel. And for me, a startup can only be really, really efficient if they're sitting in the same room and really pushing forward with all they have, you know. And this lack in efficiency became more visible as we progressed, and therefore also the funds could not be used that efficient, so they ran out. So at the end, it was basically a must to change something, either do a new ICO with Crypty or make a new project. And for me, it was just to make a new project because I had more trust in building a company and a team centralized in Europe.
So let's get into what Lisk is. So many people compare like Lisk to Ethereum. So what are the differences and similarities between like Lisk and Ethereum? And can you elaborate on what Lisk is in more detail, please?
Yes, of course. So first of all, one sentence, quick and dirty, what Lisk is. So Lisk is a blockchain application platform which enables JavaScript developers to build their own blockchains and their own decentralized applications. If we talk about similarities to Ethereum, then I would have to say it's both based on blockchain technology, and that's it basically. At the end, only the idea is similar. The end goal of having a decentralized application, okay? But the means, the way to it is entirely different. With Ethereum, you're developing a smart contract in Solidity, for example, and putting it onto the Ethereum blockchain. In Lisk case, you're utilizing the SDK, which will be like a toolbox, a kit of different libraries, different algorithms, different tools, and very handy applications, which makes it very easy, or which make it very easy to build a blockchain. And with that, by changing specific parts and elements of this blockchain, a blockchain application. So the end result is, in Ethereum's case, you have a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain. And in Lisk case, you have your own blockchain, which performs whatever action or application you want or you build into it. So that's like the main difference. You're building your own blockchain and not a smart contract on an existing system. So maybe to explain it a little bit more, like where the advantages in that lie. So what happens is that the Lisk network becomes a network of networks. That means we will have the Lisk network with the blockchain of Lisk, or we call it the main chain, but we will also have many networks around it, all these sidechains, which are new blockchains the developers develop with our SDK, which have a very distinctive use case. So for example, one of these sidechains or blockchain applications could be a decentralized messaging app, a decentralized social network, or a prediction market, some decentralized game, and so on. And they're mostly then single purpose blockchains around our Lisk main chain. And that means you have more scalability inherently because you're splitting functionality into their own parts. The whole network becomes modular. It brings also some security advantages. For example, if one sidechain just stops working, well, the whole network and all other sidechains are totally not affected. It also brings a few more customization options. You could basically decide your own consensus algorithm on a sidechain, and with that, your own block time. If you now make some Internet of Things application which saves weather data, you might only want to do it once an hour. So one block every hour is enough in order to save space. And it allows for even more customization. For example, you could develop a custom token which lies at the end on the Lisk main chain, but will be able to be replicated into the Lisk sidechain. But now everyone could build a sidechain and accept this token. And everyone could say, okay, for this sidechain, you only need the token. You don't need Lisk as gas or something like that. There's no dependency on yet another currency or token at the end, which you need just to transfer another token, like in Ethereum's case. No, you have your blockchain, your sidechain, and you can really decide what happens on it. You're like, as a developer, the creator of it, of course. So you have full flexibility and control in the beginning, in the development process, how it should look like.
Okay. Yeah, we're also very excited about the whole sidechain idea. But how did you make the decision that each blockchain application should run on its own separate sidechain? Like, where did that idea come from?
So if every blockchain application would run on the Lisk main chain, we would not have a difference to Ethereum, basically. So it's, of course, a clear separation fact. I also believe that we need different systems, experiment, test, and see what works better. Because sometimes you just need to see what is better instead of just theoretically think about it. But like we sat together and brainstormed quite a lot, and we thought, okay, it would be amazing if we have a framework which allows everyone in the world to build a blockchain. Because like 10, 20 years ago, many startups in the IT and internet space popped up. And why is that, or why was that? Because there were software development frameworks or kits which helped them to rapidly develop their own applications. So I know for a fact that, for example, GitHub, Twitter, they all use different frameworks. Like, for example, there was Django, there's Ruby on Rails, and so on. And this allowed basically the internet to become what it is today. So we, Oliver and me, said, like, this is very important for the blockchain space as well, because we're big believers in this industry and we really want to see it flourish. So we need such a similar framework which allows any developer in the world to build his own blockchain. So that essentially already makes the decision that it's a new blockchain, okay? But now we wanted a little bit more. We didn't want like encapsulated ecosystems or single purpose solutions which stand on their own. We wanted a platform, a network of network. So we thought it a little bit further and we decided, okay, why we don't connect these new blockchains which will be developed with that SDK to our own blockchain, to the main chain of Lisk. Because that gives us several advantages. For example, we have our own token with the use case, so we can do an ICO and actually develop all of this cool shit. But also, you basically now have a collection of all sidechains on this network of networks. So that means you could provide stuff like an app store, or at least a list of apps on the network, you know? So it's not like encapsulated, it's more connected. The user has a better user experience. And like in essence, also it's about like security and scalability of this whole thing. I think, yes, we have 20 people sitting here, but we will not be able to like do everything. Like, let's say just some guy, wherever he sits now want a very obscure consensus algorithm and he comes to us. Are we able to do it? And then 20 other people do the same? No, probably not. So that's why we will build out this SDK in a very modular way so that he will be able to do it himself. So that means we can have like a decentralized movement, a grassroots effort of developers building libraries for the SDK. It's similar to Node.js where you have NPM, so that means a node management tool where like all kinds of developers can come together and contribute to the industry as a whole and build cool libraries with very different features. And this will be able with Lisk as well, so that we don't have to do everything, but that every developer in the world can contribute it. And that means later on you will be able to build blockchains by just selecting which libraries you want. You know, there will be probably standards or like the big players, but it's going to be amazing, you know. The other factor, and sorry for the long answers, you all need to translate this, but it's security. Like for us, simplicity is key. Simplicity means it's much easier to make it secure. So let's have a very lean main chain and build like extended, enhanced features next to it, not in it, because this would make it very complex. And we see it in other projects in blockchain space that complexity is not always the way to go. So all these single features can now come in these sidechains, which are just plugged into the system. So it's like a brain which like evolves and grows bigger and bigger and knows more stuff over time.
Okay, so like as far as we know, there are, I mean, we could be wrong, and please correct us if we are. There are no working like sidechains necessarily, and there could be possible security problems that you run into when you're running every single app on a sidechain. So what are your opinions on this?
Yeah. So in general about running sidechains. So I know that Rootstock, for example, is a sidechain running on Bitcoin, which implemented the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, in order to make it possible to run smart contracts basically within the Bitcoin network at least. Then I know that, for example, Blockstream is working on that technology for quite a long time, but they shifted their attention away from a public framework to more privately built solutions for companies. And here's the difference to us. We want to make this open source and public for any developer in the world to build on and build with and experiment with. So in regards to your question, so I have to definitely say that a blockchain application built on Lisk within its own blockchain is definitely or has to be definitely a little bit bigger. It can't be the latest shitty small app with basically no use case at all, you know, because as a sidechain, as a new blockchain, you need to find new nodes securing this new blockchain. It not automatically runs on every single Lisk main chain node, because that would again not be scalable. That's why it's more like a network of networks. So you have to develop a blockchain application with a real benefit for the user. Let's say a bigger application could be an identity app or a prediction market. These will definitely find nodes to secure it, and they would give out proper incentives, for example, in the form of tokens to all node operators. As an example, you could say, for example, on the Ethereum network, Augur. Augur is so big, you would definitely find people interested in securing and running it on their nodes in order to secure the sidechain where this app would run on if it would be built on this. So in that regard, definitely more for bigger types of application. Else, like such a small app might not be secure enough because there are not enough nodes running the sidechain. Then another security like concept basically is the transfer of a token to from the main chain to the side chain. This is never a transfer, it's more like a replication. So you're on the main chain and you say, okay, now I want to transfer one Lisk to the side chain. But actually what you're really doing is you are locking the Lisk on the main chain and like creating it on the side chain under your account. And in reality, you just send it to the owner of the sidechain, okay, this one Lisk, and he will therefore give you one Lisk back on the sidechain. And here's a potential security disadvantage that the owner of the sidechain could run away with the funds. But well, technically, we could implement a system where a sidechain owner can just never send any Lisk or other tokens from his account. So this problem would already be solved. But now another problem might be this replication step. There could be something wrong. Like let's say you transfer or replicate a token into the sidechain and then the main chain forks. Okay, so there are different edge cases where a sidechain might run into problems. And this also makes it really difficult to develop this. This is why it takes quite a long time, but it's all manageable, you know. Another like security issue many people have is our language we are developing in. This is JavaScript or Node.js. And there I can say our blockchain is running now since 1 year and a few months, so probably like 15 months or so, and it's still running. Okay, there were a few problems in between, but in essence, it's running. And how do we achieve that? We achieve it by using a lot of testing. We come up with unit tests, with functional tests, with behavioral tests, so that very important parts of the code are being tested so that we are sure that it's running and performing correctly. Another issue many people said in terms of JavaScript is that JavaScript can't support bigger numbers. But well, there's a library for that, you know. So I mentioned in the beginning this NPM, this nodes packaging management system, and well, there was a developer seeing it as a problem, so he developed a library which let JavaScript support bigger numbers. We are using that one, and it's working. It's not an issue anymore. And as a final security like edge, like the cherry on the cream, we could potentially also move to TypeScript to remove the last disadvantage of JavaScript, and this is that the types are not, I don't know exactly how to call it, but you basically don't have a fixed type for integer numbers or for string. Every variable in the code could basically be everything. Therefore, you need heavy testing to make sure that every variable is what it is intended to be, you know. And with TypeScript, basically every type becomes, or every variable becomes a type, you know. So this would remove the last part of uncertainty many people have with JavaScript. But as I said just now, it's all manageable. It's not a real issue we have at all, like in the past 15 months the blockchain is running. So JavaScript is definitely not an issue.
That's cool. I think we can go more in detail next time we come to Korea, and then we're going to do another interview that focuses on more in
Definitely
technical sort of details. So basically, for the consensus algorithm of the Lisk, you use a delegated proof of stake. And there's a concept called the delegate marketplace, which seems quite unfamiliar to us. So can you elaborate more on what delegate marketplace is and what your consensus algorithm is?
Sure. So first of all, delegate proof of stake, or short DPoS, is the consensus algorithm running on the Lisk main chain. And basically, it brings a social element into the consensus algorithm by letting every owner of the Lisk token on the network vote for so-called delegates. Delegates are just specially registered Lisk accounts on the network with a name. So anyone can become one by registering such a delegate account. And then by basically voting for these delegates, you say, okay, I think he would be a great guy or girl who could support the network. And every Lisk token you hold gives you basically one vote. That means if you have 100 Lisk, you have 100 times more votes than someone who only has one Lisk. And now every user, every Lisk holder on the network is voting for all kinds of delegates. I think right now there are over 1,300 or 400 delegates registered. And then every delegate with the most votes up to the 101st delegate becomes an active delegate. And that means only these 101 delegates are actively securing the network. This keeps it more lean and efficient. That's why we can have, for example, 10-second block time, which is pretty fast if you compare, for example, to Bitcoin. And now to come or go a little bit more into this delegate marketplace. So a sidechain also needs a consensus algorithm. In the last few weeks and months, we changed the concept a bit by making it even more modular, even more customizable. That means the developer will definitely be able to replace the consensus algorithm he's running on the sidechain by whatever he wants to have. But we also think that there needs to be a beginning, like the pre-alpha consensus algorithm, for example. It might be only a list of accounts on the network you specify hard-coded into the code or in the code to make it very easy. So basically, there is no consensus algorithm. It's just a distributed database in the pre-alpha, you know. But then potentially you could implement a DPoS algorithm as a consensus algorithm for a sidechain. And now you need delegates. Where do you get the delegates from? Well, I just said it, on the main chain, there are like 1,400 delegates registered. They want to secure a blockchain with their account. They spend quite a lot of money by now because the fees are quite high at the moment on Lisk to register this delegate. So they want to use it. And now this delegate marketplace comes into play, which will basically be a place where sidechains will be able to find delegates which are securing them. As an incentive, the sidechain, for example, could give out a token in order to pay the delegate. But of course, it could be also possible that there's no incentive at all, and the delegate is just securing a sidechain because he owns a shit ton of these tokens, which are running within the sidechain. So a delegate marketplace will basically be a place where delegates will be able to offer services to sidechains. But we will develop Lisk in a way that we are focusing on the core right now with the SDK. I can go in detail of that a little bit later. But like all these tools around, like delegate marketplace and other things we have planned out, they come later. First comes the SDK, and then the platform around it, and then all those tools which might be handy. So it will be a road, you know.
Okay, so I think that the question is basically regarding the number of delegates.
Yeah.
Basically, so basically there are some of the many platforms that implement the DPoS, right? And then you currently have 101 delegate. Is that what is the reason for you to choose the number 101? Is there any like technical limitations, or it can be can the number be larger later when you get a more efficient algorithms, or like what is the reasoning behind that?
So delegate proof of stake was invented by Dan Larima from BitShares, who is now who has now this project EOS as well. And originally he designed his algorithm or consensus algorithm with 101 delegates. It's a prime number. It has some cryptographic reasoning, but it's also like a good state in between a centralized system with only one server and a super decentralized system with thousands of servers. Because it's all about efficiency within the DPoS algorithm and about this greenie factor. So there's no mining at all. It's very lean. It's very easy, a very easygoing consensus algorithm. And now there has to be a decision how many delegates are in the network. What is decentralized enough, or what is decentralization in essence? And if you now take a look at Bitcoin, there are some pools, let's say 10 pools, 15 pools, and they make like 95% of the hash power on the whole network. I think it's even less pools than what I said. And if you now compare it and take the parallel to the Lisk network with 101 individuals running a delegate, which is basically not a huge mining farm, but just a very powerful server on whatever location he wants to be in, then it's, for me, more decentralized because there are more individual parties involved, not 10 pools, but 101 people. And it's more like personal because an individual can run the delegate. It doesn't have to be some huge company or mining farm behind it with like 10 employees and so on and so forth. So the number 101 is basically just a decision on what decentralization means. Furthermore, yes, you can scale it up without a problem, but you have to think the more delegates there are, the less efficient the system becomes again. That because you need to transfer the blocks mainly to more delegates in the beginning, very quick within 10 seconds of a block time. So I would say 202, 505 or 501 or whatever is totally not a problem. But 202 would be bad because there could be no 51 consensus being achieved, but let's say 201 or 501. But do we need it? We would have to have more delegates. We would have more moving parts within the network. At the current state, I think we don't need it. Later, definitely yes. But later, we definitely might also need a different consensus algorithm, which makes the system more autonomous and less social, so that people actually have, again, a little bit less impact than currently. But it's all like at least conceptualizing in our heads. We are working on that. And that's basically the reasoning behind DPoS.
Yeah, sticking to delegated proof of stake, just there are several criticisms about DPoS, and I guess it's DPoS's greatest strengths are also its greatest weaknesses. For example, like there's only 101 delegates, so the possibility of them getting DDoS, that's like definitely a risk. Another risk is voter apathy. So what if 101 delegates do not really do their jobs, or they're not like, you know, voting, they're not acting like according to, they're not participating as much.
It's more like people don't care about voting. I mean, it's not the delegate, but people don't care.
People care. Yeah, people don't care about voting for the delegates. Yeah, and then finally for the third one, I mean, in some sense, the Lisk main chain is definitely like, you know, you've said previously that you're limiting your use case to public consortium blockchains. That's where it's best suited for. So it, you know, I mean, I'm thinking that the delegates would kind of need to reveal who they are, their identity, and this, you know, it might not be a problem with the blockchain, but there might be definitely might be a political danger, or there might be a danger of delegates colluding with one another. What do you think about this?
Okay, so first of all, for the DDoS attacks, so yes, this is likely, it is possible, but by now a delegate earns so much money, it should not be a $20 VPS anymore. You know, it should not be some shitty service somewhere in whatever country behind a bad connection. It should be a high performance server, maybe even a server cluster where you have like proven anti-DDoS methods built in. If you don't have that, you're not a good delegate, and people should not vote for you. Okay, at this stage where you're getting as a delegate like, I don't know, like $80,000, $90,000 a month. Okay, then the second question, help me again. What was the second part?
The second question was about voter apathy. So voters picking the delegates.
Yes. So I don't have the number in my head, but I think they are like the top delegates received like votes between 20 and 30% of the whole network. So that's quite a lot in my opinion. Like between 1/5 and 1/3 of the whole network is voting for the top delegates. And why is that? Because the delegates have invented a system where they basically give Lisk out to all their voters. So they become some sort of delegate pools where they promise everyone who votes for them receives a part of the reward he receives. So let's say there's a delegate, he earns $80,000 a month by forging, by generating new blocks on the network. And now he says, okay, half of it, that means $40,000 every month, I'm distributing to those people who vote for me. So now everyone on the network has an incentive to vote, because they can potentially earn revenues or interest rate or at least some profit by basically doing nothing. Okay, and it's totally worth it if you have, I would say, maybe more than 1,000 Lisk or so, then it's definitely worth it. And I think there's also quite a unique factor about Lisk, that you can make more money out of your money. And so there is a solution basically with that. But yes, I agree, there is also voter apathy. But if someone holds many Lisk, it's his fault if he doesn't vote. So it's not in my hands, it's not in the hand of the Lisk Foundation, it's in the hands of the network. It's still a decentralized network, you know. Okay, and the third point was?
Yeah, the third point was about you might need to reveal your identity being a delegate, and then so there might be political corruption as well as collusion.
Yeah, okay, and then you can there can be a bribery attack as well.
Yeah, so I know for a fact that there are now even groups being formed which are bundling together the delegates, voting for each other, making sure that everyone has more votes, and then the likelihood that they're getting into the top 101 is higher. With revealing the identity, I think every single delegate which is in the top 101 is known. Maybe not the face, maybe not the real name, but their digital identity is known. They're not nobodies. They're in the space since the very beginning of the Lisk time, and in most cases, they have created a reputation for themselves. So that's done. During the rebranding process we're currently undergoing, we thought about a page where we could bring even more transparency into that by doing exactly what you said just now, by giving a little bit more information about every delegate who is securing the network. I think this would be pretty amazing. And with information, I don't mean real name or real life information, but just like information about the digital identity. We saw in some cases that just some random or some username on the forum, for example, on Bitcoin Talk, who's there since 6 years, he has probably, there are some of them, they probably have more reputation. You would trust them more with your money than many other people which you maybe even know in your real life. So it's more about the track record someone has than if there is his real name being revealed or not.
Yeah, so Max, we know we are running out of time, like we got only like 2 minutes. But like lastly, we're gonna ask like, please elaborate more on like what's going on in Lisk right now about the rebranding stuff. And then second, like please tell the Korean audiences like your plan to come to Korea and meet with them. And please say something for the Korean JavaScript community as well, please.
Okay, sure. So the rebranding is basically a change of our appearance. That means a new logo, a new website, a new client, and a new Explorer design. And it was divided in different parts. Basically, it was first strategy, where we were thinking about our brand. Who do we want to be? What do we want to say with Lisk, with the brand Lisk? Then it involved a lot of research, where we did different community groups, different community forums, where we got information, got input from different members of the community, what they want to see, what they believe Lisk is, so that we can actually create a strong brand and also know where to go with the design. Then the third part is the design part. That's where we are in right now and been in for a few weeks already. Lately, the designers even sit here in our offices in order to get this last bit of efficiency out of them, because they think twice if they should maybe take a small break if I'm sitting 2 meters next to them, you know. So that's where we are in right now. And the last part is then the development of all of that. As a small, not announcement, but to say something, it's going to be a little bit radical. Many people will be pissed at, like, they will think like, what is this? But other people will then see after the time, okay, this is actually really cool. This is really helpful. It's good that it's so easy. I never needed all this blockchain nerdy stuff. Why was it always in these Bitcoin clients and so on? So we make it very easy. It will be radical in some cases. Some people will not like it. Others will love it. But I think long-term, everyone will be really delighted about that. Then before I come to the travel plans I have, quickly during the interview, I said that our main focus is on core. In the internet, I sometimes say our main focus is on the SDK. Basically, both is true. If you think about, the core is a blockchain. The SDK will enable blockchain development. That means many parts of the core will be used for the SDK. That means what we have to do is we have to make the core very modular, encapsulate basically every single functionality in order to put it as libraries into the SDK. So the focus is, of course, on the SDK. But for that, a lot depends on the 1.0 release and on the core itself. Before I go into traveling, I will let you translate what I just said first.
Yeah. All right, off to the travel plans.
Okay. Yes, great. So today is the 7th of September. We will start doing this traveling around Asia on, I have my calendar in front of me, on the 13th. So in less than 1 week. The first destination will be Shanghai. From Shanghai, we'll then come to Korea, and I've never been in Korea before, and I'm looking forward to that so much. I have many Korean friends here in Berlin as well, and I'm really looking forward to see the country. This I'm expecting at least very high tech everywhere, and huge towers, huge skyscrapers, and of course the fastest internet possibly you can get. So I'm really looking forward to that trip. I will arrive in Seoul on the 18th of September, and unfortunately, because the people here, my team needs me, I can't be so long away. So that means on the 21st, I go to the next country already. So that means I will be 3 days in Korea. I will meet you guys there again. We will have a more in-depth interview where you can also maybe even send us some feedback or some questions or details you want to know more about in advance. I will have many meetings, some with exchanges, some with individuals and other business people in the space. Maybe even we will have meetup there. So it's going to be an amazing time in Seoul. After that, we go to Tokyo in Japan, also just for 2 or 3 days. And after that, we go to Mumbai in India, where we will attend a conference. I will speak on that conference as well. We are even with the Lisk Foundation sponsoring the conference. On the first destination in Shanghai, I'm not sure about the conferences. We were originally planning to attend 2, but one of them already said they will not do it because of the recent ICO ban. So let's see with the other one. But that means 4 countries, 4 cities in 2 weeks. And I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be an amazing trip. And as I said, Korea, I'm expecting great things of Seoul, of the city Seoul.
Yeah, man, we will guarantee that happens.
Sounds great.
Hey, listeners, we're gonna have another interview when Max comes to Seoul, which focuses more on technical details, so which should be more interesting, I guess. So yeah, so we're looking forward to that. Yep, as well.
Well, I hope that this interview was also interesting. In the next one, we can even go more in depth to, well, definitely 1.0, more in depth about the rebranding, the SDK. I can maybe then also share some stories of the Asia trip. We're currently preparing an amazing presentation for the trip, which will involve some insights not yet seen. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, great, man. All right, man. Thank you so much for the interview. We'll just say goodbye to our audience. 네, 여러분 시청해 주셔서 너무 감사하고요. 대한민국 블록체인의 가치를 더해주는 더 블록체인의 시은
영훈과
그리고 Max.
Yeah, thank you also so much for this opportunity. It's been a pleasure to be here. Everyone who's watching us right now, check out our website, www.lisk.io. Follow us on Twitter, LiskIQ. Follow us on Facebook, on Reddit, and so on, to always stay up to date to our most recent announcements and news.
All right. Thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Internet. Thank you, Korea. Signing out.
Yeah, please subscribe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care, man. See you later.